Humanity, once considered a primitive myth, shocked the galaxy by not only surviving against impossible odds, but by becoming the protectors of peace through strength, sacrifice, and unwavering unity. Together with the Delari, they formed a coalition that changed the balance of power across the stars and offered hope to countless worlds. But in a galaxy that never sleeps, new threats loom just beyond the next star. Stay with us to find out how the story ends, and don't forget to subscribe. The Delari exploration fleet moved like a school of glowing leviathans through the soft radiation of the Talas Nebula, their bioorganic vessels humming gently as they scanned the edge of mapped space. On board the flagship Luminous Harmony, Commander Tak adjusted the focus of his multifaceted eyes, peering through the translucent viewplate toward the anomaly that had emerged without warning. Unknown vessel at coordinates 557 to 882, reported Navigator June, no match in the archives. The ship was angular, stark, and heavily scarred. Its matte black hull bore the unmistakable marks of repeated weapons impact. Despite being half the size of the Harmony, it exuded a quiet, predatory presence. The Delari had cataloged 12 intelligent species in their centuries of peaceful exploration, all archived and gently studied. But this vessel was new, and it was watching them. Initiate first contact protocols, Tak ordered. Power down all weapon systems. Send standard greetings on all frequencies. For several tense minutes, the vessel remained silent, like a predator testing the resolve of its prey. Then their comms crackled to life. Greetings, Delari Fleet. This is Captain Kim of the HSS Dauntless. We represent humanity from the planet Earth. Tak felt his inner membranes flutter involuntarily. Humanity, a species not found in any archive. Unknown, possibly mythical. He composed himself quickly, projecting calm. This was his first contact in over 60 cycles. Captain Kim of Earth, he replied. We welcome you to Delari Space. I am Commander Tak of the Luminous Harmony. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic understanding. The main viewscreen flickered. Then came the image of Captain Kim. Gasps echoed across the bridge. The human stood upright on two limbs. It had only two eyes set in a flat face, no protective carapace, no redundant limbs, no visible weapons. It looked disturbingly fragile. And yet, its posture radiated command. Its blue-gray uniform bore foreign symbols. There was something calm and controlled in her gaze. Thank you for your welcome, Commander Tak, said Captain Kim. We are on a peaceful exploration mission, and we're not expecting to encounter intelligent life in this region. This is a fortunate and unexpected meeting for us. Science Officer Me leaned in to whisper. Their vessel is structurally confusing. Multiple internal redundancies, hardened sections, and weapons. Large ones. Hidden, but functional. No signs of a quantum drive, and yet. They're here, Tak finished. 30 light years from the nearest habitable system. Without quantum displacement, it would have taken generations. Tak chose his next words carefully. Captain Kim, would you be willing to share cultural and technological information? Perhaps a meeting between our crews would be appropriate. A pause. We would be pleased to exchange information, Commander, Kim said. But I must consult with Earth Command before agreeing to in-person contact. We maintain cautious protocols. Understandable, Tak replied. He noticed June blinking nervously. We've detected thorough passive scans from your ship. We're conducting our own, as per our standard procedure. A fair exchange, Kim replied without tension. Understanding leads to peace. The next several hours were filled with data transfers, protocols, and careful disclosures. The Delari learned Earth was a planet orbiting a yellow star, third from its sun. Their people had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel, using a primitive spatial folding system. But more curious than the drive was the design of their vessel. It's like it was made to survive war, Me said in private. Redundant bulkheads, energy buffering and non-critical systems. That armor, it's scarred. Real battle scars. Commander Tak's skin rippled with concern. It's an exploration ship, yes, she said, but it's also a warship in disguise. Just then, the comms officer signaled. Commander, incoming message from Captain Kim. The screen blinked again. Captain Kim now stood more formally, with additional humans visible behind her on the Dauntless bridge. I've received authorization, she said. We would like to invite a small delegation from your crew aboard the Dauntless for face-to-face dialogue. Tak hesitated. We would be honored. When? We're ready now. We've adjusted the atmospheric and gravity conditions based on the profiles you provided. After the signal ended, First Officer Ben leaned in. Commander, is this wise? We must understand them, Tak replied. And there is no better way than face-to-face. He turned to me. Prepare a diplomatic team. Myself, you, cultural specialist A, and 2 security officers. Let's meet the humans and learn who they truly are. As the Delari shuttle departed, Tak stared at the Dauntless, silhouetted against the nebulous vibrant gases. The ship looked ancient, damaged, and alert, like a beast that had survived too many hunts. He had no idea what awaited inside, but he intended to find out, for better or for worse. The interior of the Dauntless was a stark contrast to the flowing, bioluminescent beauty of Delari vessels. Cold metal corridors, compartmentalized bulkheads, reinforced frames, everything spoke of functionality over form. Commander Tak followed the human security officer down narrow passageways that showed signs of damage and recent repair, exposed conduits, plates bolted back into place, walls dented yet functional. "Welcome aboard," Captain Kim greeted as the delegation stepped into a chamber near the central axis. She stepped forward, extending an upper appendage, her hand, in the Delari traditional greeting posture. To Tak's surprise, she clasped his gently but firmly, mimicking the gesture as though she'd practiced it. "Your ship has seen many battles," Science Officer Me observed cautiously. "This old girl's been through more than her share," Kim replied with a soft laugh. "Lost our port stabilizers in the Arcturus campaign, took a hit to engineering during the Proton engagement. But we rebuild. We adapt. We endure." The casual mention of damage that would have ended most Delari vessels drew a moment of stunned silence from the delegation. Tak's skin shifted in hue with reflexive concern. "You speak of these battles so calmly. Were lives lost?" Kim's face changed subtly, a shadow passing across her expression. "Every battle costs lives, Commander. Dauntless began with 412. We're at 378. Cultural Specialist Day's membranes tighten with shock. And you continue your mission?" "Of course," Kim said, as if the question surprised her. "That's what humans do. We continue." They were led into a room the humans called a conference chamber. Simple. Functional. A large table dominated the space, chairs shaped awkwardly for Delari physiology, yet obviously adapted from specifications. The walls bore star charts and tactical diagrams, maps layered with battle routes and fallback contingencies. "I hope you find the seating acceptable," Kim offered. Our exobiologists did their best. Other human officers joined them. First Officer Lee, Chief Engineer Park, Science Officer Su, and Security Chief Dao. All of them wore similar uniforms with sidearms strapped to their waists. "Not ceremonial. Practical. We have prepared a briefing on Earth and human history," Kim said. "But I always find it more revealing to tour a ship than to read about one." Tak agreed. "Lead the way." As they walked, the differences between Delari and human design philosophies became increasingly clear. No communal relaxation spaces. No meditation zones. Instead, damage control centers, redundant energy lines, emergency oxygen storage, multiple power cores. A ship built not to avoid disaster, but to survive it. 3 decks were blown out here," said Engineer Park, gesturing toward a clearly newer section of the corridor. "Relon destroyer. We lost 17 crew. Sealed it within 2 hours, rerouted life support, reinforced bulkhead. Kept moving." "You continued your mission?" Me asked again, astonished. "Of course," Park said. "We had orders." They passed what the humans called a memorial wall. Dozens of small metal tags hung across a surface marked by burn lines and scarring. "Our fallen," Kim explained softly. "We carry them with us. Always." The engineering deck housed a massive nuclear reactor that Chief Engineer Park affectionately referred to as the Beast. "She's temperamental," Park said, patting the control interface, "but she's never failed us. Even ran at 120% during the dim retreat." Me stared at the exposed heat vents and fluctuating energy readings. "Your engines are volatile." "Sometimes so are the missions," Park replied with a wry grin. In the armory, racks of weapons lined the walls, kinetic, energy-based, chemical, many unfamiliar. "Every crew member is trained in combat," Security Chief Dao explained. "Even medical staff." "For exploration?" They asked, visibly unsettled. "In our experience, yes," Dao answered. The medical bay was equally sobering. Compact and hardened, with reinforcement plates and portable stasis pods. "We learned to stabilize wounded under fire," explained Dr. Jin. Field medicine became mandatory. The bridge of the Dauntless was smaller than expected, densely packed, overlapping systems layered for rapid response. As the delegation entered, an officer called out, "Captain on the bridge." "At ease," Kim replied, taking her place. "Status?" she asked. "All systems green. Delari fleet maintaining orbit. No new contacts." Kim turned to Tak. "This is where we make decisions, Commander. Not elegant, but efficient." "It is impressive," Tak said diplomatically. "But why design exploration ships for combat?" The question lingered. Kim finally answered. "Because Earth's history is long, and often violent. When we went to the stars, we didn't forget who we were. We hoped for peace, but prepared for the alternative." As they returned to the conference chamber, Me leaned in. "They shouldn't be this resilient. Physiology suggests fragility. Thin bone density. Low organ redundancy." "Perhaps," Tak replied, Strength takes many forms. Back at the table, refreshments had been laid out, replicated to match Delari nutritional chemistry. The humans had prepared for their guest meticulously. A toast, Kim offered, raising a small translucent cup. To new friends. And peaceful journeys. Tak raised his own, but his eyes were drawn to the screen behind Kim, a rotating image of Earth. Blue. Green. Serene. Your world looks peaceful. It is, Kim replied. Now, it wasn't always. Maybe that's why we build ships like Dauntless. To make sure it stays that way. Tak studied her closely. There was much the Delari did not understand. But one thing was certain. These humans, they were not what they seemed. The warning came suddenly, piercing and urgent, flooding the Dauntless conference room with pulsing red light. Captain Kim was already on her feet, voice sharp and calm as she tapped her communicator. Report. KNX fleet just dropped out of FTL, Captain, came the response. 6 ships. They've surrounded both vessels, demanding surrender of all cargo and systems. Commander Tak turned toward her, his inner membranes tightening. The KNX? Pirates? Here. Kim was already moving. All stations battle alert. Shields up. Weapons hot. She looked at Tak and her expression changed, the quiet patience replaced by something sharper. Time to show our new friends how humans fight. The bridge transformed in seconds. Officers snapped into motion, consoles lit up with tactical overlays, power rerouted with practiced efficiency. The Dauntless, which had floated like a battered but benign creature, now moved with Predator's intent. Tak and his delegation stood frozen on the command deck, watching as the ship's systems came to life. Energy levels spiking, Mi whispered. They're activating all weapons at once. It's not possible, said cultural specialist Day, her voice tight. No ship can sustain that much power flow. Apparently, this one can, Tak murmured. On the main screen, the KNX flagship loomed, sleek, black, angular, covered in pulsating red nodes. Its captain, a grotesque being with segmented plates and retractable mandibles, appeared with sneering confidence. Surrender your vessels and cargo, it demanded. Resistance is meaningless. Kim didn't answer. She simply nodded once toward her tactical officer. The Dauntless moved. It should not have been able to, not like that. It banked hard, far tighter than its mass should have allowed, sliding under the initial KNX weapons fire. Its engines screamed, shields shimmered with violet distortion as particle beams licked across its hull, but the ship held together. Multiple weapon ports opened. Coordinated barrages of kinetic projectiles, pulsed energy beams, and something else. A golden arc of radiant compression fire struck the enemy formation. One pirate ship was instantly crippled. Another spiraled out of formation, engine shredded. The bridge of the Dauntless rocked, but the crew moved with practiced synchronization, rebalancing shield output, sealing bulkheads, routing power from auxiliary nodes. Minor hull breach on deck 4. First Officer Lee reported. Already sealed. Weapon systems at 87%. 3 crew and medical with non-critical injuries, added Chief Dow. Tak stood in stunned silence. They're fighting as if they've done this hundreds of times. Because they have, Kim said, not looking away from the screen. The remaining KNX vessels hesitated. Pirates they were, but not fools. They had never encountered resistance like this. And they were losing. Only their flagship remained fully operational. Target engines, Kim ordered. Disable, don't destroy. Precision fire struck. The enemy ship went dark, weapons silenced, engines dead. It drifted. KNX flagship disabled but intact. Security Chief Dow confirmed. Life support operational. Prepare a boarding team, Kim said. Standard capture protocols. Tak turned to her, visibly alarmed. You're going aboard their ship? Of course, Kim said calmly. Their tech is valuable. Their databanks, even more so. Why waste the opportunity? But they'll resist, she said, voice flat. They always do. And we're ready for that. The screen shifted. A human boarding shuttle launched from the Dauntless, small and streamlined, heading straight for the dead flagship. No escort. No preamble. Minimal shielding, Mi said, alarmed. The radiation levels. Our shuttles are hardened. Chief Park interrupted. We learned the hard way at Prochon. Bridge feeds lit up with helmet cam footage. Human soldiers breached the enemy airlock with rapid tools and precise charges. Inside the KNX vessel, the defenders fought with advanced plasma blades, neural scramblers, and environmental disruption fields. But the humans were faster, smarter, unyielding. One was struck through the shoulder and kept fighting. They ignore pain, Day whispered, horrified. Combat conditioning, said Dr. Jin, who had arrived on the bridge. Neural suppression, temporary focus zones. Standard in human battle units. They're overwhelming them, Mi said, barely audible. They've trained for this, Kim said. We don't go in blind. Not anymore. The camera feeds reached the enemy's command center. The same KNX commander who had so confidently demanded surrender now retreated into the corner, snarling. "Surrender," said the human team leader. "You'll be treated per interstellar convention." The KNX snarled something unintelligible and pulled a small device, slamming it into his own chest. He convulsed and collapsed. "Suicide protocol," Kim said grimly. "Typical." Tak watched in silence as the remaining enemy crew were secured, not killed, but sedated, treated for injuries, and moved to secured medical containment aboard the Dauntless. "You show mercy," he said finally, "even to those who offer none." "That's the difference between us and them," Kim replied. The bridge was silent but calm. No celebration, no boasting, just efficiency. Orders followed. Procedures executed. They had won. Completely. And it had looked effortless. Tak's voice was low. "You are explorers, Captain. But your ship, your crew." "We explore," Kim said. "But we also survive." Her gaze turned to the stars. "Out here, they're the same thing." Back aboard the luminous Harmony, Commander Tak convened his senior officers in the observation chamber. The mood was subdued, not fearful, but contemplative. They had seen what no Delari had ever witnessed, a single human vessel surviving and prevailing against one of the most feared pirate factions in 3 sectors. First Officer Ben broke the silence. 6 KNX warships. The humans not only withstood them but captured their flagship intact. "We've never done that." Science Officer Me added, "Their technology, while aggressive and layered, is not superior to the KNX in raw output. But their tactical execution, their willingness to absorb damage, fight injured, it's unprecedented." Tak stood at the viewport, looking at the human ship, scarred, pitted, but fully operational. Its hull glowed dimly as repairs began. "They fight differently than anything in our archives," he said. "Every system, every design decision suggests one purpose: survive the worst. And then fight back harder." He turned back to his officers. "And yet, they were careful. Measured. They didn't fire first. They protected us as well as themselves. And they treated their prisoners with dignity." Cultural Specialist Day spoke softly. "Captain Kim has invited us to review their historical records. Perhaps there we'll understand how a species becomes like this." Tak nodded. "Do it. Understanding must precede judgment." Later that cycle, in the Dauntless archive room, Commander Tak and his team gathered around a large interface. Officer Han, the human communications liaison, activated the console. "This," Han said, "is your requested overview. A curated, but complete, history of Earth and its path to the stars." The screen came to life, and the Delari watched in silence as their illusions shattered. They saw a world in constant upheaval. Global wars that spanned continents. Weapons of unimaginable power, nuclear, chemical, biological, unleashed on their own kind. Images of cities burning. Skies blackened. Millions lost. "You did this to yourselves?" Me asked, aghast. "For most of our history," Han said solemnly, "humans fought humans. Nations, ideologies, religions. We nearly ended ourselves more than once." The footage changed. The ruins of war gave way to images of recovery, barely a generation after catastrophic conflict. Humans launching rockets into orbit. Moon landings. Colonies. Then ships. Not peaceful, polished ones, but armored, reinforced, and armed. "Your first space stations were military," Day noted. Han nodded. "We hoped for peace, but were born from conflict. And we didn't assume the galaxy would be kinder than Earth." They saw the early ships, crude by Delari standards, but efficient, adaptive. Many were converted warships. The first FTL-capable vessel was a repurposed battlecruiser. "Not a science vessel?" Tak asked. "No," Han replied. "It was meant to scout deep space. And fight, if needed." Then came the first contact records. Not peaceful. Insectoid beings, the Sith, descended on Earth without warning. Superior in tech. Merciless. But they met something they hadn't anticipated: humans who didn't surrender. "We lost half the planet's orbital infrastructure," Han explained. "But we kept fighting. And they left." Subsequent records showed a pattern. 3 separate species attempted to conquer Earth. All failed. Word spread. Earth was labeled by some as a death world, a place where advanced civilizations went to die. "How?" Tak asked. "Your technology was inferior." "But we aren't just our machines," Han said. "We fight differently. We don't give up. And we adapt." They watched as captured alien tech was reverse-engineered, sometimes within weeks. Human engineers integrating plasma drives, field deflectors, even alien armor alloys into Earth's own production lines. Then came the story of the Allori. A peaceful race. Artists. Scientists. Without military. Their world attacked by the Scourge, a predatory species that consumed all organic matter. They called for help. And humans answered. "They were outnumbered 3-1, Han said. "But we fought. We lost most of the fleet. But we won." Images of the Allori homeworld post-battle, broken but alive. Human soldiers helping civilians evacuate. Allori leaders signing a treaty in tears. This, Han said, turning to Tak, is why we build ships like the Dauntless. Not because we want war, but because sometimes peace must be protected. Commander Tak stood in silence. He no longer saw frailty when he looked at these humans. He saw will shaped by centuries of struggle and survival. When the session ended, Tak turned to Han. You knew how to fight the KNX. We've met their kind before, Han said simply. Different names. Same arrogance. They think compassion is weakness. Until they meet us. Humans are not weak, Tak said at last. You're something else entirely. Han smiled faintly. We're many things, but never weak. The Delari High Council chamber was silent as the final footage from Commander Tak's report faded from the central holoscreen. 50 council members sat beneath the vaulted crystal dome, their skin rippling with patterns of awe, uncertainty, and disbelief. Never in the Delari's long, contemplative history had they encountered a species so deeply contradictory, technologically inconsistent, physically unimposing, yet capable of stunning military precision and unshakable resilience. Councillor Min broke the silence. 6 KNX ships, 1 human vessel, and they not only survived, they captured the flagship intact. I witnessed it personally, Tak said, his voice unwavering. They protected us as well as themselves. Councillor Duke, head of the science ministry, leaned forward. But their systems are primitive. Nuclear fusion? Projectile weapons? How does such a species function at this level of strategic capability? Because technology is only part of the equation, Tak replied. The rest is will, experience, adaptation. The debate lasted for hours. Some argued that humanity was a threat, unpredictable, forged in violence. Others, Tak included, saw an opportunity, an alliance, a balance, a force to stand beside, not against. At last, High Councillor June called for a vote. The decision was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The Delari would formalize relations with Earth. 3 cycles later, the human diplomatic ship approached the luminous Harmony. Behind it loomed the HSS Defender, a massive, gleaming warship, Earth's newest and most advanced. Not a threat, Kim explained, but an honor guard, a symbol of trust. Your council was brave, Kim told Tak as they stood together in the Harmony's observation dome. Many feared you, Tak admitted. Your history, your fire, but fear comes from not knowing. And now we know. And knowing us, Kim asked, do you trust us? I do, Tak said simply. You protected us. You did not strike first. You fight hard, but not without cause. Treaties were signed in that same dome. Protocols established. Joint research pacts. Military integration channels. Knowledge flowed in both directions. Delari bioorganic hulls began appearing on human ships. Human defense logic reshaped Delari fleet doctrine. Word of the alliance spread, and the galaxy noticed. The aggressive Varic Empire, long harassing Delari colonies, withdrew its scouts. The Martil Consortium, notorious for predatory trade practices, suddenly offered equitable deals. Peace, it turned out, could be enforced, especially when it had a human face. 6 months later, the first joint Delari human vessel launched from Earth's orbital shipyards. Explorer 1, a long, elegant cruiser with Delari fluidic design and human shielding, bristling with both sensors and weapons, a vessel that could study the unknown and survive it. Captain Kim commanded. Commander Tak served as first officer. Their mission took them to the edge of known space, to regions the Delari once deemed unreachable. Pirates who expected easy prey found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned. Attack pattern Theta, Kim ordered as a dozen ships converged. Defensive only. Let's show them we're not worth the effort. The ship moved with terrifying grace, its shields absorbing incoming fire, its engines executing impossible maneuvers. Not a single shot was fired in retaliation. After 3 failed assaults, the attackers fled. No shots fired, Tak noted calmly. Kim smiled. Delari influence, perhaps. I did notice, Tak said. You had targeting locks on every ship's engines. Just in case, she replied. News of the cooperative's success spread fast. Other species, once isolated, bullied, or ignored, approached the alliance, seeking protection, inclusion, hope. Within 2 Earth years, the Human Delari Alliance had expanded into the Galactic Cooperative, 12 species united not by conquest, but by shared experience and mutual defense. But not all were pleased. The Varic Empire, now cut off from its influence routes, deployed a fleet, twice the size of anything fielded in the last decade. Their target, a joint Human Delari research station near contested space. A single transmission was sent. Surrender the station and evacuate the sector. You have 1 hour. The station's commander, a Delari scientist named Ta, responded with a brief message. We decline. This station is under human Delari protection. The Varric commander laughed. Where is this protection? The answer came moments later. 3 human warships dropped from FTL directly behind the Varric fleet, followed by 5 Delari vessels emerging from stealth fields, cloaked by hybrid sensor-dampening technology developed in tandem. This is that protection, came Commander Tak's voice. The Varric ships turned and fled without firing a single shot. At the 5-year celebration of the Cooperative's founding, now Admiral Tak stood with Captain Kim on Harmony Station's upper deck, watching ships of a dozen species come and go. Did you ever imagine this? Kim asked. When we first met? Not even remotely, Tak admitted. Back then, I thought you were dangerous primitives with strange ships. And now? Now I know, Tak said with a smile, you are dangerous primitives with strange ships, and the best allies anyone could ask for. Kim laughed. A fair assessment. A junior officer approached with a new report, a distress call from a non-aligned world facing a planetary disaster. A joint hospital vessel is in range, the officer added. Send them immediately, Kim and Tak said at the same time. As the medical ship departed, Tak watched its bright wake against the starfield. The galaxy had feared Earth would bring war. Instead, it had brought resolve. And something more precious. Protection. The Dauntless floated above the world of Alira, its orbit calm and stable, the pale oceans of the planet glistening beneath twin suns. What had once been Earth's most battered warship now stood as a symbol, not just of humanity's survival, but of its transformation. Its scars had not been erased, but preserved and reinforced, its hull rebuilt not to hide its past, but to embrace it. On board, Captain Kim stood beside Admiral Tak in the observation dome, watching as a joint rescue shuttle descended toward the surface. A tectonic collapse had triggered floods and energy grid failures. The world had sent out a distress beacon, not to a government, but to the Galactic Cooperative. We were the closest, Tak said quietly. As it should be, Kim replied. Neither needed to give orders. The system had been refined, joint protocols, pre-coordinated triage structures, integrated rescue teams. Humans and Delari moved together. Others, the Olori, the Tranis, even once isolated species like the Shellari, had sent medics, engineers, coordinators. It was no longer just Earth and Delari. It was everyone. When the crisis passed, and the Ellerin leadership sent a message of gratitude, it ended with a phrase that none had expected to hear. We seek membership in the cooperative. And they were not the only ones. Within another standard year, nearly 30 species had applied. Not because of power, not because of wealth, but because of trust, earned, not demanded. Still, threats remained. The Varric Empire, humiliated but not defeated, began reorganizing. Rumors circulated of alliances forming among the outer empires. Pirate bands, warlords, and mercenary syndicates began targeting cooperative ships more frequently. But each time, they were met not with a single race, but with a fleet. A Delari reconnaissance frigate might call for help, and a human destroyer would arrive. A human freighter would be cornered, and a Shellari strike craft would decloak and defend it. It was no longer about who was strongest. It was about who stood together. Inside the central hall of Harmony Station, a museum had been established, not of conquest, but of memory. Among its exhibits stood a preserved panel from the original Dauntless, blackened and warped from its earliest battles. Next to it, a display told the story of the KNX engagement, of the first handshake aboard a damaged human vessel, and of a fragile but resilient alliance forged not from common biology, but from shared defiance. One wing of the museum had been dedicated to species that chose cooperation. The Olori had donated one of their ancient paintings, reconstructed from fragments after the Scourge invasion. The humans had contributed a piece of the Pathfinder, their first faster-than-light warship turned explorer. The Delari added a living sculpture, a pulsating biomechanical art form crafted to depict harmony between organics and machinery. Children from multiple species toured the galleries side by side, listening to guides recount the day when the galaxy changed, not from destruction, but from choice. Ambassador Kim, no longer a captain, and Admiral Tak sat together during the 10-year commemoration. You know, Kim said, sipping from a cup of warm tea, some still expect us to turn on each other. They don't understand what we built, Tak said. No, they only see the surface. The weapons. The contradictions. Let them. They've underestimated us before. Kim chuckled. We've come a long way since the Dauntless limped through that nebula. Tak looked out the panoramic dome at the stars. And yet, I think that's where we truly began. Silence followed. Comfortable. Until a new alert chimed. Another world. Another threat. Another mission. Kim stood. Shall we? Tak smiled. Together. They left the chamber, side by side. Above them, ships of the cooperative moved like constellations given life. Delari curves and human angles merged into a single expression of purpose. Each bore the same insignia now, 2 hands, one scaled, one bare, clasped at the center of a starburst. A symbol not of dominance, but of unity. And beneath that emblem, one phrase: never judge a species by appearance, especially humans.